Technology has the potential to quickly scale best practices in teaching to millions of classrooms around the world. Yet, many teachers hesitate to adopt new technologies, especially in schools where they have not had technology before. So, while we were in Philadelphia for the ISTE 2019 conference with our US partner ClearTouch, I decided to ask some of the world experts why this was the case. I sought out ISTE CEO Richard Culatta, who has both policy and international experiences in Paraguay, Chile, Uruguay.
We've been to Colombia, we've done some work in Peru, we're doing a lot of work in Latin America, but we're also doing a lot of work in the Middle East, in Russia, in China, so there's some great stuff happening internationally. But the big thing that I'm seeing, this is a trend generally around the world, is there is a lot of focus on making sure there are devices available, that there's access available, which is great. And sometimes there's this tendency to be like, great, we're done once that problem is solved. Right. And part of our message, part of what ISTE does is say, no, that's actually when the work starts, right? When you get people devices and connectivity, that's when the work starts of making sure teachers are prepared to know how to use the technology well, that students are using it not just to read content on a screen, but to design and create and build and problem solve. Do we have high quality materials for students, learning materials? And in the past it was a textbook and trying to get more textbooks and better textbooks, but that's challenging in a lot of places around the world. And so technology in some ways allows us to actually leapfrog that problem. So we can say, hey, let's skip this idea of just trying to shove content at students and say, why don't we just let them tap into and learn how to be curators of the world's knowledge, which they can be connected to. Teams are now much more likely to include people that are in different parts of the world. So this idea of working together with people that may be in different countries, speaking different languages, that's one part. And another thing increasingly is the ability to work with AI. So as we're getting into a lot of future roles, they are requiring collaboration between people, but also AI, and knowing how and where to use AI to make decisions, and how and where there are decisions that should be uniquely human. That's a whole skill set that today's students are going to have to learn that we frankly didn't really have to deal with. So we worked with General Motors and created the only class, the first class that's available online for teachers on how they should be talking to their students about AI. And if you go to ISTE, you just search for ISTE, there's an AI course there, and it's fantastic. We have teachers all around the world that are going, I didn't even know this was a problem, and now I'm seeing that there are conversations that I should be having with my students. So that's just one example of the types of learning experiences that we're trying to push out so that teachers feel prepared so their students can thrive in the future.
Many educators refer to TPACK as three aspects of successful technology deployment: technology, pedagogy, and content knowledge. I loved how Richard was bringing students' content knowledge into the mix by giving them the role of curators of knowledge. While technology adoption in a school or district has challenges, those challenges only get bigger when the same technology is deployed to a state or country. One shining example of technology deployment has been Poland, who has not only deployed computers and internet into schools, but also made content freely available and provided training. To learn more about what works, I spoke with Rafał Starowicz with the Ministry of Education in Poland.
I've been invited here to share our experience regarding our all digital policy in Poland, which is quite successful.
The sound didn't come through, but Rafał explained to me that the Ministry of Education has not only put the textbooks online for anyone to access, but they had also built interactive activities for students with its own learning management system that could track student progress. Poland's national commitment to open educational resources is remarkable. You can get quality materials for almost all subjects and curriculum for free on the web. I'll include a link to the UNESCO report that highlights the different sources available. When I asked Rafał about the hesitations that teachers faced moving away from their textbooks and adopting the new open educational resources, he told me two that he saw often. First, teachers want to try the technology themselves before they use it in a classroom, so hands-on training was very important to them. Second, teachers were concerned that the open educational resources would not cover every aspect that they would have to teach. They didn't want to have to rebuild their existing lesson plans and content to the new system. What I took from our discussions was few educational technologies save teachers time, especially when there isn't a wealth of content available. If we want to scale teaching practices like active learning, then we need to provide many examples that teachers in any grade or subject will be able to use. Content helps with comfort during prep time, but what can we do to help them feel comfortable in the classroom? How do teachers feel when they use technology in front of their students? And how can we create an environment of comfort around technology? To do this, I needed an expert in teacher training, and who better than Director of Technology and ISTE keynote, Alicia Dual.
So I ended up teaching at an international school in Tegucigalpa, Honduras, and then also in Jakarta, Indonesia, and I've taught also at International School in Manila, Philippines. I think with anything but technology, teachers are very strong. They're the content experts, they're the pedagogical experts, and so they always feel in control. And so with technology though, I think it's one of the only areas where teachers legitimately might feel out of control. My keynote the other day was about the importance of sharing failure with others, and I think in education we don't really talk about failure, and we don't tell people that it's okay to fail. Everybody fails, and so my whole point is you've got to just start talking about it. And so you can scale that down to the elementary level. Maybe you have a little wall of mistakes, or maybe a teacher shows some examples of student work that isn't quite right, but there's good thinking in there, and there is success even in our mistakes. So just start talking about it early.
The key message for me, in this conference, was that authenticity requires that level of vulnerability.
Yes.
And if you're not vulnerable, and you're kind of this people can't associate with that because everybody's going through something. And
right.
when you're willing to share your vulnerabilities, look at how I failed.
Right.
Other people tend to believe you more.
Right.
You tend to be much more authentic. So
Definitely.
that's why I really appreciated having that conversation with you today.
Well, thank you
Thank
for
you so much.
having me. It was a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.